One of my favorite tools for gaming are the GameMaster Apprentice cards. Always find these cards helpful when I'm setting up a scene or during gameplay when I get stuck. Just pull one of these cards out, start reading the information on it to just kind of unlock my creativity. In addition to providing spark information, there's actually some game mechanics featured on these cards, such as dice results, your odds, even some weather information. Just find them very helpful. And we now have a new product on the market that does the same thing, just does it differently, and it's called Random Realities. So let's get into this.
Welcome to Solitary RPG.
Before we jump into Random Realities, I want to take a little bit of a closer look at the Game Master Apprentice cards. I have 6 different decks. Each deck consists of 60 cards. The cards are double-sided, which means each deck has 120 results that you can use. These were created by Nathan Rockwood, and I picked mine up on Drive-Thru Cards. If we just kind of scan over the card real fast, you just have a variety of different pieces of information you can pull from. You have some game mechanics up towards the top. You have just like a general number result that if you're just looking for a random number, you have that. You have some odds like yes, no, bad to good. You have dice roll results. Here you have weather. So like this is like a little wind, like a little cloud. To me, this is either mountain, snow, or sleet. You can use it for however you want. Got a little flame, could be fire, could be heat. And right above that, you have some Norse ruins. And if you're not familiar with Norse ruins, you can pick up the instruction deck. It's like 6 or 7 cards, and it breaks down the Norse ruins for you so that you have a better understanding what they mean. Just below these like mechanic pieces, you have 3 words. This is going to be like a vowel, an adjective, and a noun to help you with like places and actions that are taking place. And then it gets into like senses, your hearing, your sight, your touch, and your smell. Really good when you're doing some dungeon dives and you're trying to add some atmosphere to a room. Really like pulling from those. Then you have some symbols. These are just random icons that you can use when you pull them out. Maybe grab your attention for something and you can use those. On the far right though, you have like arrow directions. So these are, maybe if you get lost, if you're doing an overland adventure, it kind of can point you in the direction that your PCs are going to be going now. Or if someone tells you they went that way, what way, that way, you got an arrow that you can use. And then at the bottom, you got belongings. So these are just things that someone may have on their possession. You got a catalyst hit by a stray shot. Okay, and you got locations in a basement. Here you got some names, you have virtues and vices. So maybe if you're trying to add some personality to a name for an NPC, you've got some information right there available to you for your game. They're just good tools. I really like using them. I've always found them very helpful, and I keep all of mine in these Dragon Shield acrylic containers. These are the Old West cards. They have an Old West vibe to them, plus the words and the names are more fitting for an Old West setting. And then you have the fantasy cards, which just have more of a fantasy vibe, but everything's still laid out the same. It's just the way they are designed is just to give you more of a fantasy feel to them, and the information is going to be more related to a fantasy setting, which is very helpful when you're playing your games. This is superheroes or comic book kind of a style, which is just kind of cool. I haven't used these yet. I don't really play superhero games, but I picked them up because you never know when you might do that. These are the sci-fi ones. I use these a lot when I play sci-fi adventures. And it has that vibe, it has that feel for sci-fi, so that's why I like using these. And my favorite ones are the horror ones. These are just really cool. You got a big like saw blade for the dice results, and you got a Jason mask, and the words are just very fitting for a horror style game, so I really like them. And the last one I have here are the steampunk ones where you got some gears, and I really like the layouts. These are very appealing to my eyes. But yeah, so these are the Game Master Apprentice cards, and I've been using them for a while and I really like them. But recently I picked up Random Realities. I don't know how I stumbled across this. It was probably in one of the Facebook groups that I belong to. I went over to the author's itch.io page, and let me zoom in on that. There is the author's name, so if you want to look them up on itch.io, there you go. You can also just find it by looking for Random Realities. Pick this up as a PDF for $6.90. There was a limited number of this particular package available because it also came with a print at cost code through lulu.com. So I think in total, I'm not in this very much, maybe $20, $25. I got the PDF plus the printed version. As you can tell, it's not your standard book. It's 7.5 by 7.5, so it's perfectly square. And I really was impressed because when I was on Lulu's site, I don't buy a lot of books from Lulu, but they offered a cream pages for the inside for the text block. And with that orange cover, I just thought it would look very pleasing to the eyes, and it does. I just like how it looks. But let's take a look at this a little bit closer. So this is set up similar to the Game Master Apprentice cards, just focusing on different information. The way this works is if you're using the physical zine, you can roll 2d6, getting a result using one dice for like the 10 spot, one dice for the 1 spot, and then you just flip to that page and all your results are on the lower right hand corner in the what would be d6 result boxes. So if you rolled a 3 and a 5, you got 35, and then you would just start pulling information from this particular section. That is one way to use the physical copy. Another way is just to flip to a random page and start using the information. Or you could just use it like a book and just start here for your first chart and then go here and so on and so on. So for the physical copy, you can use it however you want. The PDF version, same thing. However, the PDF version is set up for those people that really like technology. And the way that is done is the author has included in the PDF this dice roll index, and you literally just click on one of these numbers and just go to that page. Let me show you. So here is the dice roll index, and you can just click on 22 and it will take you to 22 here, and you can just start pulling the information straight from this page and you're good to go. Now in the instructions for the PDF, it says you can click on the dice results or category titles in any page and it will take you to a random page. And this did not work for me in my PDFs. So when I purchased it, I got two different PDFs. I got a mobile version and I got a regular version. And what we're looking at right now is just a regular version. So if we click on 23, these are the different categories for this particular result. You can see how you hover over the different category titles. You should be able to click it and take you someplace, and mine isn't working. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. It says it doesn't work in browser editions, but this isn't the browser edition, so I don't know why mine is not working. But I really don't mind because I don't use technology in my games. I'm perfectly content using paper. It's not really a big deal to me, but I'm sure the author will get it corrected when it's brought to his attention so that people that do enjoy using the technology in their games will be able to use it correctly. So that's how you basically use the book, how you get to the different pages. But now we get into all the different categories. So we have like a general category. Then you're going to notice a few spots where there's a box. The author's trying to draw your attention to these particular boxes. This one's talking about the EM dashes. And what the author's talking about is some of the subcategories. So you have a general category, and each category is broken down into all these little subcategories. Some have the dash in between. And all the author's saying is you can use like the first word, contact. We're doing a mission here. So we got contact, object. So it's just talking about using different charts. This comes in real handy, especially when you're doing names, because they're kind of broken down into 3 sections, and you can really get all those results and string them all together to create a cool name for an NPC or a character or whatever. But that's what's going on. That's what the author's doing, is drawing your attention to certain aspects, like the icons here, talking about the different icons. and how those are just sometimes easier to see and immediately get something, just even though it looks like clip art from Microsoft back in the 80s, still really good to just see that and get inspired and just be able to move. You don't even need to use any of the other information. You just look at the icons and really create your story from that. And the last big piece of information the author wants to draw attention to is that this kind of has an undertone of fantasy, but it doesn't necessarily mean this is only to be used with fantasy. These are spark tables. This is just inspirational information to help you with your gaming session. Sure, some of the names may feel like fantasy, but you can always, that's why you can string those words together and mix them all up and really create something that might feel a little bit more sci-fi or Western. But that's all the author is really talking about when it's talking about a fantasy theme. There's kind of like this undertone of fantasy running through the book, but you can use it for whatever. It's really kind of up to you. Then we get into the credits and then the license. So the author, this is under the Creative Commons license, so that if you wanted to create this and make it more like a sci-fi or Western or horror or whatever you'd want to do with it, you just have to credit under the license. But most of the information in here is just really breaking down the different categories and how to use them. These aren't just words. There's kind of like a little bit of a mechanic on how to use them. Like in the world building, you're going to roll 3 to 4 times for the aspects and then blend those concepts together to really create a world. So just giving you more detailed information on how to use this tool. So let's kind of look at one of the pages up close. We're going to start with the category of general. So this is really basic information to start you out. So you have simple, weak, no. So this is an answer of a yes/no question. Is the door locked? You get a weak no. So it's not locked, but maybe it's stuck because it's a weak no. So you can use it that way. So you will get results of just yes, no. You're going to get weak or strong, just to kind of add a little bit more to those results to help you with your story. Under complex, this is where you're going to get the verb, adjective, and noun. They all have the dash in it, so you might want to pull from different result tables to really string those words together. But this is just going to help you with figuring out like locations and places and things in your game session by giving you those, a verb, an action, and a noun. And then abstract will just give you more detailed information about your results. And then you get intensity. So this would be the intensity of something you're interacting with, or maybe an NPC, but you got like average, the expected. You can go further and you can get very low, the minimum. So maybe this is just like how challenging is this adventure going to be? Very high, the maximum. So it's going to be a crazy high, risky adventure. That's what the general is. Just giving you really basic information for you to just start sketching out some concepts and working on it. Then you get into the world. First, you're going to have your name that has the hyphen. So, and you can go in any direction because I like the second word here, spear, but I don't really care too much for the first. So I come over here and I got tribe spear for my world, tribe spear. So you can really mess with that. You can manipulate the words around a little bit to make it flow off the tongue a little bit quicker. But that's kind of what you'll do for your name. This is the aspects part. This is where the rules we're talking about, roll on this 3 or 4 times to really get some different concepts and to really put something into your world to make it a little bit more meaningful than just one result. Inhabitants, who's on your planet. And then you get into the icons. You may just see one of these icons and immediately know exactly what you want to add into your world. So that's always kind of cool. Then we come down here to exploration. So overlay and travel. What's the terrain like? Ornaments. So this is kind of like decorating, add a little bit more life to your area. Events that you may come across and findings. And again, more icons, but these icons deal more with weather and direction of travel because you do have the arrows. You have kind of like a time of day, a little bit of temperature, and what the weather's like. So this just adds to those details. Creation's really cool. This is taking an object and giving it more meaning. It can be just a random trinket or an object, or it can have magical abilities, or it can create, cause some corruption. So you have some icons. So maybe you're taking one of these icons as the thing that you're creating, like the vial, a piece of meat. It could be a spider brooch or something like that. I'm struggling on this one, but again, you could take one of these to make it your item. But what is its purpose? What is its trait? Does it have magical abilities or corruption abilities? So it just gives you some words or some ways of putting some meaning behind an object that you're creating for your adventure. Coming down here, we're going to create a scene. And one of the things you can do, especially with the scenes, because there's so much information in this category box, is you can pull different subsections off of different charts when you're creating your scene, just to make it a little bit more random. And it's just something that I like to do, even when I'm using the Game Master Apprentice cards. Sometimes pulling cards for different pieces from each of the cards when I'm trying to create something. You can do the same thing here. But it gives you, your challenge. It's going to be very hard. Reactions, protect pride. Those are going to be reactions of maybe something that you're going after or people you're encountering. It just depends on what you're creating at the moment. You do focus a little bit on your senses. This one says fresh rain and coins clinking. It doesn't go as far as the Game Master Apprentice cards do, because they focus a little bit more on a few other senses, but you do have a few senses that you can use for this particular scene. Get into some details, development, complications, and advantages. So just helping you out there. Here we have like a little quest generator. So if we're trying to generate a quest, we can start pulling from these little subcategories to create that quest that we're trying to go on. We have locations. So if we've gone someplace and we're trying to develop a location, the first box is really cool because it's past and present. So it's always nice when you go to a location to know a little bit about the past of that location and where it is today, because those two things could always be colliding to create conflict. And then you got descriptors, trouble, buildings, influence, mood. This is the mood of the people when you arrive. So it's really focusing on how the community or where you're at, how they're responding to you. Here it's welcoming and warmth, which is cool. There's always got to be some kind of a rumor. This one's sealed gate, and then seeks and offers. So just providing you some really good information to pull from to create a location really quickly, just by using all these different little spark words, and also pulling from different tables for the words that have the little dashes in them. So then we have people here. So this is the same concept. They're broken down by the hyphens. So you can start with one aspect of the name here, move to another chart to get another aspect, and then move to a final chart to get a third aspect. So you can really string those pieces of a name together to create one unique name. I'm not always the best at that, so I'd rather just get a name book and just pull a name out of a book. But some people are really creative at that because they want to really create that unique name, and this is a fun way of doing it. Then you have kind of like a disposition form, a role, a descriptor, a quirk, a drive, a secret, and seeks and offers. So really neat for creating quick NPCs. And then you do the same thing here for creatures, but it talks a little bit more about how they're going to attack and their actions. Then the very last box, this is titled Fate. Here, this is where you're going to have your dice results. So the Game Master Apprentice cards obviously give you the full array of role-playing game dice that we have. However, there's 120 results on the deck of cards. Here, this book only has 36 results because this is a 2d6 system, which is only 36 results. So they couldn't really create a result to make it average or even close for larger valued dice such as d20s. But you do have a result for a d4 and a d12, and then you have the 2d6 results that are obviously your result if you're rolling dice, but you can also just use those for d6 results as well. You have a little chance section here, like a 2 in 6 chance that the door is locked or the Dragon's Awake type thing, and then you have a word chance like unlikely. Over here we have very likely. These are very reminiscent of Mythic GM Emulator. So you could use this, like if you're playing using GM Emulator and you're kind of struggling, like what should the chances be in the fate chart, and you really want to leave it up to chance, you could roll and pick one of these and get like very likely, 50-50, unlikely, likely. So kind of falls into that category of the GM Emulator, which is kind of cool. So yeah, that's kind of how these are all broken down. The instructions are going to give you a lot more detailed information, so that way you can use this book to its fullest potential. But there's not a lot of rules; they're pretty straightforward, and it's just a great tool. For me personally, I'm probably going to use this in conjunction with my Game Master Apprentice cards, because I see this maybe more for creating adventures and creating scenes and creating kind of my world, where these I see them more for during gameplay. One of my challenges when I'm playing, sometimes I just get some concept stuck in my head or a word stuck in my head, and I keep using the same word or I keep going back to that same concept. This is a really good tool to get you out of that rut, because you're pulling these cards and you're getting different inspirational words and situations to help you move along. But I do see this as more, I don't know, creating the adventure, creating the conflicts, creating things to use in gameplay. So they're similar in that sense, but they do provide different results. And I just think it's great to have another tool in the toolbox that I can use when I'm playing my games. And it fits a way I already enjoy playing my games with the Game Master Apprentice cards. So it's a nice complement. So that was just a quick look at Random Realities. There will be a link in the description below if you want to go check this out. It wasn't terribly expensive, and it's just another great tool to have in our toolbox. It's not just a random table book. It is more a book that you can use for inspiration to create. So that's what I really like about it. So thank you very much and have a great day. Bye.